Good morning. This is the so-called Gnostic'Arrogator. I'm here on Beaver Lake. It's pretty frozen, and there happens to be no clouds as far as I can see. We've got a few ice skaters there in the background as well, though I'm not entirely sure myself how safe this is. Anyway, I wanted to tell you you have some kind of framework of where these opinions of mine are coming from. I go by the term is Jonathan Daniel Lissick. Now I'm pretty fine with Jonathan because you can chop that up in a number of ways. It can become John, John can become Johnny. That's what my family calls me. So if you consider yourself that, that's what you may call me, Johnny. Lissick, however, is a sort of a placeholder. It's a made-up name. It originally came from Austria, so it is of some Germanic origin, but Lissick is not a German name. It's not even a German word. There are a number of possible, and you hear stories of people coming to Ellis Island when they first come to America, and they tell the immigration officer, my name is... The immigration officer's like, yes, Mr. Smith. So that's what Lissick is. One of the variations that I like, and there's even a Wikipedia article on Lichki with an E, which is something of a village or a hamlet back in the olden days. There goes the notorious bells, if you can hear them. My apologies. Anyway, I also chose Lichki name too, and his name is Kurt Lichka. I'll tell you a little story about Kurt Lichka. Down and targeted by the infamous. So where do I get a Germanic name, or an augmentation of a Germanic name? Well, I myself, my father is, well, he's half Irish. His mother's name was Englert. That's Irish there for you, from those islands. And his father's name was Liss. But they were both half German and Irish, so that's one half of my ancestry, my endowment, my racial endowment. But my mother is not a mutt at all. She is full Cambodian. Her maiden name is Yin, Y-I-N. So I describe myself as being biracial. I'm white, Asian, and in terms of specific ethnicities, I am Germanic, Irish, and Cambodian. But at the same time, I enjoy certain privileges in this biracial status. But I cannot myself claim to be a pure specimen of either side. I am something of an outlier to both sides. And actually no one there recognized that I was Cambodian at all. Another detail of my general encounters with the very deep subject of race and integration is that I'm here in the city where I was born, the city of St. Paul, or as I like to call it, no saint, or whatever this term saint means. His original name was Saul, so I like the city of Saul. And Saul is part of they are within a reasonable distance to one another. And it's recently come up in PSYOP. BLM, and there was a lot of burnings. Stood down, burnings and lootings that the police did not enforce. And that's another story that I may talk about. But in any case, this city, as far as I was born anyway, is highly mixed racial. There are a lot of, like, it's sort of like a test city. It's a test New York. It's a test subject area. Like, when I went to school, most of the schools I went to, I was actually they were primarily black, Latino. Hmong is a particular racial tribe, which I'd like to talk about later, because they've got a pretty big, they're pretty well organized here in the Twin Cities, and they're very ethnocentric. I mean, most Asians are in general, but when you're talking about the Hmong and the Vietnamese and the Cambodian, well, there's more of an intermingling between, say, the Cambodians and the Vietnamese than there are with the Vietnamese and the Hmong. The Hmong are a very tight-knit community. The first school I went to was actually very nearby where I lived, and I can show you there. That's a little charter school. First school I went to at the age of 7 for the first grade. But like I said, most of the schools I went to, whites happened to be a minority. And although you might be listening, you probably can recognize that I'm not fully white. You can probably recognize that if you are a white person. But people of color really can't recognize that I'm not fully white either. They just see light skin, and they've always put me in that category, or perhaps I've always put myself in that category. Actually, when I first went to school, I was well liked by a lot of my classmates. I didn't go to the school forever. Went to about 6 different schools, and over time, just generally there was a big schism, especially when it came to differences in music. Like, a lot of them got into hip-hop, R&B, and rap, which I never liked. There was a time where in my early 20s I jammed along to those wretched songs. But that was kind of a difference even with my Cambodian cousins here, because they tended more to identify with what was ghetto, and they often used the N-word among themselves as if they were black. And that's one of the things. Cambodians are typically very dark, so they fell into that category. This is my music. They looked at, rap and Lil Wayne, Lil Jon, whatever, I don't follow any of that, but they looked at that music and said, this speaks to me, and I never did. Well, anyway, I better get going here, because, well, the alarm there. Jack, get over here. Puppy, get over here. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You was okay. You're okay. You okay, buddy? Get over here. Get over here. Well, thanks for listening, guys.